There are so many things that I wish someone had told me before our first Disney cruise. And in today's video, I'm going to share them all with you. If we've not met before, hi, I am Ree from Mummy of Four Does Disney. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. We sailed on our very first Disney cruise in August of 2021 in the Disney Magic at Sea sailings and had such an amazing time. But sure, there are a few things that I figured out along the way I wish I'd known before. The first thing I wish that we had done on our Disney cruise, which I will definitely be doing the next time we sail, which will be on the Disney Dream in August of 2023. So make sure you are subscribed with bell notifications on so you do not miss any of those vlogs. But when we sailed on the Disney Magic, we did not take advantage of the room service breakfast. It is included in the cost of your cruise, although it is expected that you would tip the person that brings the food to your room. So in my head, it was a case of, we don't need room service, we're just gonna go and have breakfast in one of the beautiful restaurants. We had the option of Cabanas, the buffet service restaurant. We ate at Rapunzel's one day, we had breakfast in Lumiere's. So to my mind, why did we need to have a room service? Well, the truth of the matter is, there were so many exciting things that we saw on the way to breakfast, characters we bumped into, that I was very aware that time was ticking on and the children hadn't been fed. They didn't care, they were living their best Disney lives, but as their mother, I was very concerned that I wanted them to eat something. So for our next Disney cruise, my plan is to order room service to the room every day, even if the children just eat a little bit of something to keep them going while I'm getting ready, while I'm getting everything organized for the day. And then we still plan to go for a nice sit down breakfast. At least I know if we get detoured by all the excitement and the magic along the way, it just won't matter. The next mistake I would say that we made on our first Disney cruise is choosing the wrong dining slot. Now, obviously the wrong dining slot is going to entirely depend on the preferences for your family and your party, but I chose the earlier dining slot for that first cruise that we went on. And for me, this made total sense. My children eat at 5 o'clock back home. There's no way they were going to make it to the second seating. They'd be tired, they'd be hungry, they'd be hangry. But do you know what I didn't account for? The fact that the food on the Disney cruise is just so amazing that you're eating all day. And it came to that dining reservation, we were eating around 6 o'clock and we just weren't hungry. They were bringing all of this beautiful food that we just couldn't finish. And then saying, was everything okay? And being really concerned. And it was very much a case of, the food is stunning, I just wish I could eat more, I'm just so full. The other thing you need to remember is that if you're at the earlier dining, you're watching the later show. Conversely, you will watch the earlier show if you're in the later dining seating. So it's not like the children would be going to bed any earlier, they'd just be eating then watching a show, or watching a show then eating. And for me, actually, I think I wanted them to be awake for the show so they could really enjoy it, and then if they were feeling that bit more chilled out over dinner, then. So for this cruise, I have opted for the later dining, therefore we'll be watching the show earlier on in the evening. The Disney Cruise Line operates a rotational dining system, which I explained in depth in my video where I talked all about the food on board the Disney Magic, but the system works the same within each ship. So in brief, you get allocated which restaurant you'll be eating in for each night. You've already selected the earlier or the later dining, and then you sit at the same number of table each night in each restaurant. There will be a little key on your card. So for us on Disney Magic, it said ARLA, which stood for animators, Rapunzel's, Lumiere's, and then animators again. And those are the restaurants we ate in that order. Let me know if you'd like to see a whole video all about the food options on board the Disney Dream, and that's something I can put together for you. The next thing I missed out on doing on the Disney Magic, and I will not be doing on the Dream, is the Dole Whip. Now, we had our first Dole Whips in Florida on the last day of our trip, actually. They were hidden, I mean they weren't hidden, but we didn't find them until the last day of our trip, by the Magic Carpets ride in Adventureland in the Magic Kingdom. Now, apparently there was a Dole Whip float available on the Disney Magic. I did not get one. They were an extra charge. That is okay with me. I would have paid that extra charge for that Dole Whip yumminess. And if the Dole Whips are available on the Dream, you can count on me eating them, potentially every day. The other thing I missed out on doing, I was planning to get a Mickey bar delivered to the room via room service to eat on the veranda. It was on my cruise bucket list. Did I get this done? No, we ran out of time and we were too full. So this is something I'm definitely planning to do on the Dream. Did I get a Mickey bar for dessert? Oh yes, I did. Oh, so good. Next thing I wish I'd known or thought about perhaps a little bit more was just how much walking I do on the ship even in the evening. Now I packed flip-flops to walk all around the decks during the day, planning to do lots of walking, and that was fine. But then even in the evenings when we changed for dinner, we did a fair amount of walking up and down the decks, looking for characters, round the restaurants, and I ended up wearing a pair of neutral wedges. I thought they'd do for all the evenings, but I had big stinking blisters from them, purely because I had perhaps not worn them in very much and we did more walking than anticipated. So perhaps what I wish someone had told me is put like a little pair of flats or flip-flops inside your bag, so if you walk to dinner in your pretty shoes and your shoes are bothering you, it's not going to ruin your evening. You're not going to have to go all the way back to your stateroom to change your shoes. There is so much to think about when planning a Disney cruise. And one of the things I wish I'd had before my first Disney cruise is a Disney Cruise Line planner. So in order to plan for my next Disney cruise and to help you plan for your cruise too, I have designed my own magical cruise planner, available in perfect bound book or coil bound format, or a digital option that you can use on your iPad. The Magical Cruise Planner is the perfect way to get excited for your cruise and make the most of the magic once you're on board. Check out the link up in the cards or down in the description to grab yours. I wish someone had told me to wear shorts under my skirt when getting on the cruise, because we got on the cruise ship at Southampton and I must admit I had a little bit of a Marilyn Monroe moment on deck 10 with my floaty skirt. So guys, grab your shorts. I've done it every Disney trip since, makes getting on and off the rides easier. If you're getting on the cruise, it can be glorious but a little bit windy, so keep it in mind. Something I don't think people discuss enough about the Disney cruises is the placeholder system. A placeholder is simply a deposit. For us, it was $250 per room that you pay on board the ship before debarkation. This secures you a deposit towards your next cruise. You have up to 2 years to use it. It gets you 10% off your stateroom booking for that next cruise. Now, this is something we ended up doing on the ship, but it was something that was a bit last minute and I hadn't necessarily planned for. The placeholder is 100% refundable, and if you don't use it or if you'd like it back, you can have it refunded. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer, and I will put that within my budget for this and indeed every Disney cruise, just to give us the options. Next thing I wish someone told me is that booking optional extras on board the cruise really is not essential. I was really concerned about logging in and making sure I had secured extras and the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and all the bookable, payable extras for our cruise. And as we were first time cruisers and there was limited availability, specifically because of COVID, because it was a lower capacity cruise, and all of the Platinum, Gold and Silver Castaway Club members had logged on earlier, several days earlier, to reserve their slots, there was no availability. Incidentally, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Castaway Club is a loyalty system that the Disney Cruise Line runs. The more you cruise, then the earlier you get to book your cruise, to book your optional extras, and to check in for your cruise. And the earlier you get to do all of this, then the more options you get. So as a first-time cruiser, none of the things that I wanted to book were available. And I was a bit down about this at the time and thought it was a bit of a shame. And honestly, it didn't matter. The optional extras I was looking to book were really quite expensive, so perhaps it was for the best, and we were 100% busy. We had 4 nights on the ship, and I could have stayed on there for 4 weeks and not got bored at all. There was so much to keep us busy that those optional extras, as lovely as I'm sure they would have been, were non-essential. I wish I'd known before getting on our Disney cruise just how much flexibility there would be with the food and the menus. The service was exceptional. Nothing was too much for them. I remember we were dining in, I think it was Animators one night, and my husband said, oh, there's so many nice looking things on the menu, but do you know what I really fancy? I really fancy that meal I had last night in Lumiere's. And they said, no problem, I'll get it for you. So if you're concerned that you're sailing with fussy eaters in your party, do not worry, they will take care of you. They were so flexible with the menu choices. Another thing I wish I'd known before sailing on our first Disney cruise was just how slick the luggage system was. So we gave our luggage, our check-in luggage, as we were embarking the ship, and then that just arrived at our stateroom. It was seamless and flawless and waiting there for us. And then for debarkation, we packed most of our cases and put them outside our room the night before, and they were taken away. Then I think we kept 1 or 2 with us for debarkation, just so we had our essentials. It was so slick. I think we had a daisy tag. You get given these luggage tags and then you go to the relevant character as you get off the ship. And all of our luggage was just sitting there, lined up beautifully. It was neat. It was waiting for us. There was no fussing. It was so unlike an airport where you just can't find anything. It was just so slick. Pretty much like everything the Disney Cruise Line does, in all fairness. But I was really, really impressed by that. Although one thing I will do that's slightly different this time, last time I had a backpack with like my camera gear and things like that in it, that stuff that I didn't want to check in because I felt was a bit more perhaps fragile and valuable. This time I think I'm just going to take a little drag along case like the cabin sized cases that we've taken on our other Disney trips and taken on board the aircraft, purely because I won't have to carry a big heavy bag around hurting my shoulders. I can just wheel it around. That's going to be easier for me, but that's kind of a me thing. You can choose to take swimwear on in your carry-on luggage if that's something you want to do, and get in the pools when they're nice and quiet while the rest of the ship who have not thought about swimwear are waiting for their cases to meet them at their rooms, which is generally after 3 p.m. on the day of embarkation. Before I share the next thing I wish I had known before my first Disney cruise, let me know down in the comments, have you got a Disney cruise booked, or are you thinking about booking? Which ship are you sailing or planning to sail on? And which port are you sailing for? I'd love to know. I wish someone had told me that embarking the ship was just going to be much easier than expected. Even though if you've watched my vlogs, and yes, I have got a detailed and magical vlog series from our trip on the Disney Magic for you to watch if you are interested, where I share all of our experiences and the tips and everything you need to know. So check that series out. But if you watched that series, you will know that getting on the ship was slightly more stressful than normal because we had all the COVID restrictions and we had to do COVID testing at the port. And obviously if anyone tested positive for COVID, then the entire party would not be allowed on the ship and would have to go home. So that was quite stressful. But even with that, it was much slicker and simpler than an airport. So for this cruise, where we're not going to need to do all of the scary testing that might mean the whole cruise is cancelled, I anticipate it being really smooth and stress-free. I think something I'm going to do this time that I didn't do necessarily on the last Disney cruise is pack used things as we go through the trip. So I mentioned earlier, you can choose to put cases out in the hall in front of your stateroom. The cast members will take those away and those luggage items will meet you off the ship. Packing on the last day was a busy experience because I wasn't necessarily packing as I was going with this in mind. I think I'm going to just empty one of the cases this time and just use it as like a dirty laundry bin. And if everyone dumps their dirty laundry in those cases last thing as they go, it's going to make my life a lot easier that night before debarking the ship, and I can spend less time packing up and more time enjoying the magic on the Dream. Something that I wish someone had told me, and I think we managed to figure out because just by pure luck I had something with me. We had a veranda stateroom and we had a fridge in the room, and it's drinking water that you can use from the taps in the bathroom. So while you can go up on deck and get drinks and things, the easy thing to do if you want water in the night or in your room is to fill up bottles. And I'm not talking about the insulated chilly type bottles that I'd suggest you carry around the park. I'm talking about just clear bottles. And if you can fill up those clear plastic bottles that can absorb the coldness, I guess, from the fridge or release the heat, I don't know, that can allow the water inside the bottles to chill, then that is a really good idea. And I'd highly recommend doing it. However, the sinks in the staterooms are quite shallow and you're not going to be able to wedge a full-sized bottle under the tap in the sink. So you're going to need at least one smaller sized bottle to fill up and decant the water from the taps into the whatever size bottle you want to put in the fridge. Not sure if I've totally overcomplicated that, but I hope it makes sense. It's just a really good thing to be able to have a little bit of chilled water for you to enjoy in your stateroom. Because remember, While room service is included, drinks you order from room service will be chargeable. You can get unlimited drinks up on deck in the self-service or in cabanas, but if you buy soft drinks along with alcoholic drinks at a bar, then those will be chargeable. And I guess I wish someone had told me just how next level the service would be. I mean, I know I've heard people rave about Disney Cruise Line for a long time, but until you've experienced it or watched the vlogs perhaps, then you can really experience it for yourselves. You just can't appreciate how next level. It's literally the best service we've had anywhere in our lives. The guest service in the parks is incredible. On the cruise line, it is way, way better. The service that we had taking care of us really got to know our children personally. They were anticipating their needs. They were calling the girls Princessa. It was beautiful. William was walking around wearing a captain's hat he'd bought on board. All of the cast members were walking along saluting him. It was just fantastic. Every single cast member, whether they were cleaning, they were with the characters, they were helping us with our food, were just incredible. Honestly, every single one. And I think last minute before I took some little bits from Marks and Spencer's to leave, I think we took some Percy Pigs and things that are going to be pretty hard to get on board a ship to leave as gifts for people that had really been very lovely to us in addition to tips. But I definitely think perhaps this cruise, I'd like to put perhaps a bit more thought into some kind of creature comforts or sweets or treats and things to share out and pixie dust to the cast that have taken such great care of us. I don't think I was ready for just how magical the cruise was going to be. I knew it was going to be beautiful, but when we walked in to that atrium, it was our very first Disney trip as a family. It was our first time that my children had met Mickey and Minnie, and it was just so overwhelming. If you've watched the vlogs, you'll know I cried like a baby quite a lot throughout the cruise, all the happy tears. So I guess I just advise lots of tissues and waterproof mascara, guys. And then I don't think anyone prepared me for how overwhelming it would be to have to leave the ship, having just been in such a magical environment. For the Disney Magic at Sea cruises, we weren't even allowed to get off the ship, so there were no port adventures. We had 4 nights of just being immersed in the magic of the Disney Magic, and I'm sure the magic will be just as magical on board the Disney Dream. No one prepared me for just how hard those Disney blues were going to hit us all. My daughter Bella was convinced that she would not be able to walk on land again, and to be honest, I felt the same. No one can prepare you for those Disney blues and how tough they'll be, and quite frankly, the only thing that cures them is booking another Disney trip. Sorry. And while I thought that the Disney cruise would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I don't think anyone told me just how addictive it would become. I'm hooked. Click on screen now to check out my magical trip planners, including a specific cruise edition. Check out my Patreon with early release of all my upcoming videos and some more videos on screen you may enjoy. See you guys soon. Mwah. Bye.